Good morning, dear students. As I told you that I will come up with a video, but yesterday somehow the video that I recorded could not be played. So today morning again I thought that I should record it again and come in front of you. So the purpose of my making of this video is that uh, for this unit 4, I already have posted two videos. Uh, these are in the form of documentaries from the discovery of India. It is based on a book written by Jawaharlal Nehru. My main intention had been to make you understand the history of India, because if we are not aware about the historical characteristics or aspects of Indian society, we cannot move forward and say that these are the factors that have shaped India, present India, or these are the forces that are working in modern India. So it is very essential to know. And to start with, this particular uh, topic, I would like to give you certain points. Means I won't jump to globalization suddenly, but I will give you some idea about the major characteristic features of Indian society since the ages, and how this has, you know, remained present in Indian society. And uh, somehow we can say that the society that we are living now, it is not the outcome of a single day, but it is something that has been shaped from uh, in an evolutionary process. So when we hear this terminology, modern Indian society, we have to understand that this entity has evolved through historical phases, okay, various historical phases, and has seized its present position. For example, we know that even before the Aryans, India has a vast history of culture and civilization in the form of Indus Valley civilization, or it is also known as the Bronze Age. There also we find that we had a very advanced kind of standard of living, pattern of life, and this has exerted its influence in the forthcoming generation. Then another point here is this: uh, this Indian society is actually, it is an amalgamation of different historical, we can say, records, or different, we can say, history of uh, races, their ethnocentrism, their philosophy, as well as their socio-cultural life, which includes the system of ideas, values, education, pattern of living, economy, and so on. So this is not something that has come up suddenly, but it has been uh, made into the into its present, or it has gained its present shape and structure uh, slowly and gradually. That is why, whenever we discuss about the modern Indian society, we have to drag out the analysis from a historical perspective, so that we can understand the forces that have shaped modern Indian society. Would you understand? To understand the forces, or to know the forces which are shaping modern Indian society, which is a part of your syllabus, uh, you have to get a historical perspective. Only then you can understand about the forces that are, working in modern Indian society, or how India of today has, come to its present form. So, for our analysis here, we need to divide the historical periods in India into means I have divided here into four phases, and these are the Indus Valley period, then Vedic period, uh, then the advent of the Mohammedans, and the last one is the uh, advent of the Britishers or the colonial rule. Here, I have not kept any separate, period as Buddhism, because that I will discuss with Buddhism or Jainism. That I will discuss with along with the uh, Vedic period only, because it just followed that. So here, what point I would like to mention is that uh, if you closely analyze the features of modern Indian society, or some of the characteristics feature of Indian society at present, you will find that there are certain forces which originated during the early period of history, but they are still, very, very prominent in Indian society. For example, I'm telling you, Vedic period witnessed the emergence of caste system, and this caste system was designed for, we can say, occupational diversity. Means people belonging to different caste, or people were divided into different caste, so that different occupations can be properly maintained through manpower, depending on the kind of expertise anybody was having. And this caste system is still present in Indian society, and it is present in a very, very strong and, we can say, vibrant manner. And the kind of reservation policy that we have, now we are giving reservation on the basis of class also. So where from this thing have evolved, this force of segregation of society, or the kind of social structure that we find in India, that evolved um in the Vedic period. So, if you don't know the history, how you can say about the caste system, which is so strong in Indian society, and it is one of the fundamentals of Indian society, means you cannot start your discussion, or you cannot move on your discussion without having a reference to caste system. So this is a major force in Indian social system, and it originated in the Vedic period. But there is a difference in the sense that the purpose with which this caste system was originated has had lost its major, what should I say, thrust. Means something that was done for occupational division, soon it was transformed into an ascribed kind of division, and birth status was attached to it. And this is something very interesting, and it has become a major source of social division in India. People are divided on caste lines. So this is something, a unique feature or force of Indian society, which the origin of which is, or it originated in the Vedic period. Then another point I would like to give is that uh, this status of women in Indian society, that we find women as the homemaker, women as the child bearer. This has not been the idea from the beginning, because if you go through the scripts or the epics, you will find that the status of women in the pre Vedic period was quite high. It was not that of a confinement to the four walls, but uh, in the Vedic period, we find that the role of women were being specified in the sense that women were given the primary responsibility of maintaining the family life. Okay, and as a result, the status of women was or started you know, getting delimited to the household course only. And from there, so many other restrictions also started. So how we talk about now that women status of women, empowerment of women, this again, how that deterioration took place, how Indian society witnessed the treating women as the second gender, that even started from a historical source. So this is again something that is related to that particular historical period. Then another point, coming to education. When we talk about education, here again we have to understand that what kind of education system was being perceived in the Vedic period. In the Vedic period, we find that Gurukul system was something that was very, very uh, predominant in those days. And even in today's context, you will find the idea of residential schools. And this residential schools, residential universities, residential uh, institutions are nothing but the replica of this particular, what should I say, Gurukul system. So this has or is exerting its influence, which we might not be knowing, but this is something that really is important to understand at this point, because these are the things that we have inherited historically, or we have inherited through our um, ancestors. So this is something very, very interesting, that these are not the development of one day, but accumulation of different ages, different decades, or different centuries. Then I will come to Buddhism. See, actually, my main motto is how the past is still replicated into the present. Could you get my point? Means how the whatever Indian heritage has been, how it is still, strongly influencing our present society. So, coming to Buddhism. Buddhism, it is something, it is a, we can say, religious philosophy, it is an idea, it is something that has done away with some of the, we can say, demerits of Hinduism. It came as a reaction to Hinduism, and it laid more emphasis on peace and non-violence, which is the basis of Indian society. If you see Panchashil, Panchashil is something that India is known for, and this Panchashil is being derived from this Buddhistic tradition. Another important thing is that this Buddhism emphasized on redundant individual interest and laid more emphasis on human welfare or social welfare. And this we find very relevant. This is something that is being stressed by the socialistic pattern of society. Socialism, again, which is mentioned in our constitution, that India is a socialistic pattern of society. Here again, we find that the welfare of the society has been put before the welfare of the individual. So, this is again the reflection of the Buddhistic tradition in our society, or in our values, or in our uh, political system. Then, after this Buddhism, I will come to the next point of Indian history, that is the advent of the Mohammedans. And in this advent of the Mohammedans, one point that I would like to mention is this: there has been so many dynasties that have ruled India, but the most prominent among them had been the Mughal, because they stayed for the longest period of time in India. And not only stayed, they they accepted India as their nation, and they reformed the society in many ways. And the most significant contribution of the Mughals has been its, you know, its what we can say, that the kind of development, or the kind of modalities, or the kind of uh, you, mm, the kind of uh, structural changes they brought to economy and culture of Indian society, especially we can say that the religious equality in India that we uh, know from history has been stressed by the Akbar, the great Mughal ruler. Not only that, when we talk about economy and culture, we have to remember that what we say as globalization, actually India has been witnessing from a very very early period of time. During the Mughal time period, we find the uh, export import system was existed, or was existing in India. For example, this one point I would like to mention here: this foreign trade during the Mughal period was present in the form of, India used to export muslin, silks, then raw materials and indigo. So this was something, foreign trade, which we talk about nowadays in India, that foreign direct investment in education or in so many other sectors. These are something that um, have their foundation in Mughal period. Also in Mughal period, we find that these were being present. These were something that were, uh, foreign trade was there. So globalization is not something very very new in India. It is something that was present or was practiced in Indian society. Then imports or balance of trade, we find the mention of import of gold, silver, then horses, tobacco in that period of time. So this is something, globalization was present in Indian society even in that period of time. It is not something that in the post 1990s it has started suddenly. This free flow of goods and services was there at that point of time also. So this is something very very interesting, and this again has been a unique feature of Indian society. The economy was quite developed, as well as the kind of handicraft, uh, or the we can say the kind of handmade products that were being produced during that period was something world famous. Mughal art and architecture was something, was very popular at that point of time. Even today it is popular. So these were some of the contribution of this rule, or we can say this historical phase to Indian society. Another important factor is that the kind of rural development that India had, advanced rural development system. Even today we cannot think about that, because the villages were self-sufficient villages. It was even presumed that the villages were so self-sufficient, so self-dependent, that they could survive without the help of the monarchy, because there was the handicraft industry or the indigenous industry was at its peak. It had huge demand in the market. Then agriculture was also something which is still today. We know that 70% of India's population is dependent on this agriculture. So this is something again, India has inherited from this Vedic tradition only, and it is still continuing. And this cultivation uh, and handicraft, and we can say pottery to an extent, these are the indigenous uh, rural economic boost, or rural economic pattern that existed in India, and which are really very enriched, and which was something that was a source of revenue also. And this is, uh, you know, this period is something was very what should I say, in Indian history, it was something that was filled with immense resources, which was in later part being destroyed by the Britishers, especially the economic uh, kind of. we can say the economic structure of India was completely destroyed by the Britishers, and that could never be repaired. For example, the migration that we find even in today, most of you have seen that how the uh, the labor class from village to town, they are migrating in search of work. Why this kind of migration is taking place in India? This kind of migration is taking place in India because of the destruction of the rural economic structure. The rural economy, which was essentially based on agricultural handicraft industry, was received a setback during the British period, and India witnessed a kind of migration from the village to the towns, and this migration is still continuing. And even you will find that why in this period of crisis, you have seen how this people, migrant workers, are suffering, and where from this concept of migrant workers or migration developed. It developed only when this Britishers had or the British policy had completely jeopardized the economy of the rural India, and they started migrating in search of work. So this is something again, the roots are present in the past. So this is something very very interesting, that whatever the economy we had even in the earlier period of time was so advanced at one point of time, that globalization or something, it's not new, it is something that was present in Indian society. Then coming to education, here I would like to highlight some of the educational features of that time, which are still exerting its influence. These are that the education system propounded by the Gurukul system and the madrasas were quite advanced. Okay, these were quite advanced, and they were the ancient seats of learning. So this is something very very prominent feature of Indian education system. And residential school, as I told you, these are, and even Sanskrit tolls and madrasas are something that even today they are existing, and they are the what they are the uh, we can say the landmark, or they somehow carry the tradition, that rich cultural heritage of education that India is having. Then again, in the another interesting point here is that in the Buddhistic period or tradition, we find the development of universities, world class universities like Takshila and Nalanda, and there the not only the Indian students but students from abroad also used to come for education. So this student migration, globalization of education was something, student exchange was present even in that period of time. It is not something that is very new. The system of education was so advanced in India that students from other Southeast Asian countries, even from Middle East, were coming to India for education. So higher education system was something very developed, and this process of migration and student exchange was present in Indian society, which we are even witnessing in today's world, in the globalized world. The student migration or whatever we have. Then another point here I would like to mention is that the skill based education that India had, means the craft centered kind of education, which later on was stressed by Gandhi. This was something. The skill based education was a part of Indian education system, especially people, as I told you, that occupational hierarchy or occupational division, people belonging to a specific caste, they did not get the kind of nowadays we have same kind of education for all. We don't give any importance to the factor of expertise or one's own choice. It is something that is common for all, but earlier it was not like this. Someone who is who had an expertise in something, they were given a specific kind of training. or education. Education as such, this terminology was not there. They were given some kind of training, and this craft centered education was a very important kind of education for a particular group of people. And this was the this we can say that somehow proves that how India had followed the idea of skill based education, and it led to the kind of empowerment to a section of people. So this was something that even today we talk about skill based education. We talk about that vocational education. This has its roots in the past. Now coming to the modern Indian society, which is specifically taken into account from the British rule. Why this period is known as modern Indian society? Because of many reasons. Some of the reasons I'm citing here. The first one is the development of the idea of rationality. It was in the British period only the idea of rationality was being developed completely. uh, you know this idea of rationality means that renaissance or enlightenment of Indian society uh, took place during the British period. We know that Indian society was having so many superstition and so many kinds of social stigmas, and this were somehow removed by this kind of rational attitude developed by Renaissance. Then, status of women related to this, we find that there was a point of time when the system of sati, then child marriage was so common in India, and it is only due to the modernization initiated by the Britishers we find that the status of women started progressing gradually. And even today we find that if the modernization was not initiated by the Britishers, Indian society would have continued with those traditions. So this is something, again, the status of women, the modern status of women owes its existence to the British rule. Then the modern education. We know that the kind of education that we are into now, the English education, is something. It is something that has been started by the Britishers, and this Indian education system is something that, or the modern education system, uh, is a initiation by the colonial rulers, and this education system is still replicated. Means we have English as our medium of education. Whatever way the colonial system was shaped, we are still continuing with that. So it is again something that has resulted into a kind of elitist system of education, and this is still continuing in India. So this is again the contribution of the British rule. Then next is the development of transport and communication. The modern transport and communication system again owes its existence to the British rule. The kind of infrastructure development in railway, telegram, and so on, everything was being initiated. As a result, what happened? The benefits of modernization started reaching to the suburbs or to the rural sectors even. So this is very important. Then scientific discoveries, we find that it is only through the modern education system initiated by the Britishers, Indian youths developed an interest in science. Modern science, we find so many scientific discoveries taking place in that period of time. So many developed, or so many scientists also were emerged at that period of time. So this is something that scientific discovery, scientific to develop a scientific temper, that again what we are having now is related to the kind of education system that was being propagated by the Britishers. Then next important point is the creation of an enlightened class for who led the Indian freedom struggle. See, this is very interesting to note that. Uh, the Britishers had introduced the English education system in India with a purpose to run their administration. Okay, they didn't want Indians to, get exposure or their intellectual development. But this education had twine effect. At one side, it produced clerks who were the admirers of the British rule, and at the other side, it developed a pool of youth who got the similar kind of education, and they stood for freedom and liberty. So the same kind of education had created two class of people. Even today we find that the kind of education we have, at one go it is you know helping us to go for new discoveries, new invention. And at other side we find that due to the persistence of some of the elements, uh, the education system is unable to develop that kind of skills in the youth. So this is something, the forces are still present. We need to find out the reasons behind that. Then another factor is that the destruction of the indigenous economy. Even this destruction would not be repaired till date. The kind of economy we had in India was really very advanced. It was really very, what should I say? It had many unique elements. As I told you, that some of the crafts in India, like uh, pottery, like handicrafts, these could never be developed to that level which it used to have earlier. So this is something that we need to think about, that how the present structure, or I won't say the present structure uh, totally, but during the eve of independence, up to which we will be discussing today, we find that India was having a dual character. A dual character in the sense that two classes of people we got. One which was, quite enlightened, and they were elites, they were the beneficiaries of the modern Indian modern education system initiated by the Britishers. And there was a class of people who were highly ignorant, uh, who were, suffering from extreme poverty, underdevelopment, religiously volatile, uh, that was persistent, uh, and divided. So, see, these are the things even today they are present. We have one group of Indians who are very developed, who are, we can say that, who have wealth, who control resources, and who are the elites. And at another side, we have a group of people who are quite underdeveloped. Okay, and they are the group of people who are, uh, suffering from extreme poverty. And still it is there, these forces are working in Indian society. And religiously even, we people are so very divided. And how this division even started by the Britishers only. So this divide and rule policy initiated by the Britishers, earlier the system was not like that. Could you understand? India has always accumulated diversity, but the seeds were being laid by the Britishers. So these forces are still working in Indian society. So this discussion is a kind of a prelude to our, further analysis of Indian society in the form of globalization, liberalization, westernization, or modernization. See, we cannot jump to those factors without analyzing these factors, because this will come to our discussion again and again. As I told you, globalization is not something that is very new to India. It was persistent in India. Then there were some of the aspects in Indian society which were very advanced. So how all those social forces have interplayed and has taken the present shape, that is our main, or we can say that is the intention with which we are discussing this paper. So it's very essential to know the history of India, or what are the factors that have continued since ages, and still it is exerting its influence on Indian society and Indian, we can say Indian pattern, or Indian social pattern. The stratified society that India is known as again owes its existence to those ages, to those factors. So this is something that those forces that are present in India have their origin in the past. So that is why this kind of discussion was essential. So this is it for today. I will come up with another lecture in the couple of days, and you try to understand or think about all those points. And next we will move on to the different processes like globalization, uh, urbanization, modernization, how these are, what are the specific features of those aspects, and how education is influenced by this. Thank you.